The best thing for getting warm is contractions. Pull it back, hold for about 5 seconds.
So I wholeheartedly disagree with this with all due respect. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, and I am a professor of sport and exercise science, which means I might know some things about sport and exercise science. And today we have a huge treat. That's what my dad said before he left forever and never came back. Where was I? Dave Bautista, the famous wrestler and actor and all-around seemingly awesome guy and a jiu-jitsu grappler, is on our channel today. Well, he's not our channel because he's too important to care about who we are, but we're going to critique his exercise videos. And from what I understand, he is coached by Joe Bennett, aka Hypertrophy Coach, who is a gentleman who very much knows what he's doing. But does he know as much as me? Probably more. But that doesn't mean I can't talk a little shit. Let's get into it.
All right, what's up, guys? Joe Bennett here with Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista is a large, scary man with large, scary tattoos, and I would be scared to be around him, and it looks like Joe is keeping his distance. Safe idea.
And Dave's the greatest home gym in the world.
Hey, Scott, the video guy, how come our home gym isn't the greatest home gym in the world?
You built it.
Right.
Slash man cave slash androgen oasis. Awesome place.
Did he say androgen oasis? Huh. It's going to make a lot of jokes that all implicate me in various illegal things. I'll just shut up and keep critiquing this.
Just kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a view of, I've been training Dave for, I don't even know how long, a couple of years now.
Look at Dave's facial expression. He's like, yeah, man, it's been a long time, dude. Yeah. It's like how I feel about Scott the video guy.
So kind of had the idea of showing you a little progression. Dave's probably got some of the better form of almost anyone that I train.
Ooh, Scott, this is juicy. Tempt me more.
And that's the nice part, as you can see, if anyone that's ever trained this way, you can make it brutally challenging and make great progress by pushing the form side a little bit harder. And we still progress the load, obviously, within the parameters of really tight form, so.
Accurate. Hypertrophy Coach said something really, really awesome here. You're going to progress within the parameters of really good form, or as we call it here at the RP channel, technique, because we're pedantic pieces of shit. If you're pushing load outside of the parameters of good technique or good form, you've made a philosophical error, because good technique does two things. It keeps you safe, and it also enhances the degree of stimulus delivered to the musculature. If you increase the load to such an extent that it degrades the safety profile, and it also potentially reduces the delivery of stimulus to the musculature, or let's say you make up extra stimulus with more load, but then you degrade the safety profile, you get roughly the same stimulus, maybe, but with less safety. Again, a philosophical error. Almost everyone who does poor technique just hasn't thought it through. And Joe Bennett, Hypertrophy Coach, has really thought it through, which is why he knows good technique is the way to coach, well, everyone, really. I sure as shit don't hope the technique is awful and then I have to walk my shit back. Ooh, here we go. Scott, you make lots of videos of all of us lifting. How come we don't get those cool rock and roll riff transitions?
You're not cool enough.
I'm not cool enough. Just me or Jared too?
No, Jared's cool.
Fuck.
He's got big, thick energy.
But I don't. Oh, that was so bulgy. Oh my God, he's kind of fucking ripped. Holy shit. I will say this, no offense to anyone. A lot of super dark ink tattoo, I just don't really know what's going on there anymore. It really does blur the musculature, and I like my muscle boys to be visible to me so I can go, yeah, oh yeah, oh your triceps, yeah, oh yeah. Wrong channel. Just kidding, right channel.
And when he's getting at those end ranges, just kind of squeezing. So here's going to be obviously kind of mid-lower traps, kind of some of the external rotators of the shoulder joint. Hold for about 5 seconds. So the idea is we're training upper body. Just want his scapula to get moving. The muscles that move really get to those end ranges and get some good contractions. Using his shoulder joint, his GH joint a lot.
GH joint? I'll stop.
So want those getting to the end ranges, getting some good contractions there. The best thing for getting warm is contractions. So as he gets more muscles contracting, his body's going to get prepped and ready to actually produce bigger, stronger contractions.
So I wholeheartedly disagree with this with all due respect. I think the best thing to warm up is actually doing the exercise you're going to do, but with the RP Hypertrophy app. What do you get when PhD sports scientists collaborate with pro bodybuilders? The most effective muscle growth training app ever made. Get yours now. I think the best thing to warm up is actually doing the exercise you're going to do, but with less weight and very good technique. It takes care of the contractions, and it takes care of the technical foundation, and it takes care of the rest of warming up. However, in Bautista's case, I imagine that with his wrestling history, he's probably been injured like 1 trillion times. And a lot of times doing more warming up, more activation drills to ease in for someone like that, especially if there's a huge onus on them not getting hurt under your tutelage, I can totally see the validity of this kind of stuff. And notice, I'm not saying hypertrophy coach is wrong about these activation drills. I think they absolutely work. But in my view, maybe we can get the same effect or a similar effect by simply warming up to the exercise. I could be wrong. Hypertrophy coach is one of these people, like, he knows enough to where anything I say that goes against him is like my educated guess against his. I'm not just going to treat him like V-Shred and be like, that guy's a fucking idiot and knows negative things. The opposite of the truth. You, V-Shred. Ooh, the prime row. Hey, we have these machines, don't we? Do you think his are better because he's Hollywood? Do you think they made like a special machine for him because he's a big deal and I'm no one and will never be anything?
Remember when Prime didn't return our call?
Yes. Yes, we were trying to make commercials for Prime equipment and they seemed excited at first, but then later just stopped talking to us. Now, shit happens. Prime is unbelievable manufacturer of equipment. I fully endorse them and I think you should go buy Prime stuff. I did. It's great. Some of the best machines in my gym. But Prime, if you're seeing this, we've been thinking about you a lot. I've been writing letters mostly to myself so that I can see my own feelings. I haven't been sending them, but I've sent a couple. I've sent a couple hundred over. Just no big deal. Just get back whenever.
First couple of warm-up sets. We got the seat, most people in rows need the seat set higher rather than lower. So when he's here, you can see his forearms right in line with the handles or the pull of the machine. A lot of people, if you sit you sit too low, you're gonna get kind of this bicep flexy thing where it's a lot more biceps and less back.
Yeah. Also, that's a really good point. Another thing is like a lot of times people will have the pad really low on their stomach and then they actually get pulled so far forward at the bottom of the row, they can't use as much weight as they want because they get physically pulled out of the machine. One of the number one reasons why you want the pad pretty high is you want maximum tension through your upper back with something that puts you and keeps you in place. If you put the positioning for the row low enough for that chest pad, you're going to get pulled out of the fucking thing. So nice and high is really good. Believe it or not, I actually have a really high sitting height, which sounds like a really weird humble brag that an incel who's really short and never gets laid makes, which is entirely accurate. But my legs are like kind of dachshund legs. I think God tried to make my upper body for someone that was 6 feet tall and he forgot about my legs for a while. So when I sit into machines, a lot of times I'll put the machine pad all the way up or put the seat all the way down so that I can actually fit in there. And if I have that problem at Scott, how tall am I? 4'9", then, well, geez, you might run into that problem yourself, being of an adult height as our adult viewing audience.
And the best cue I always give people here is feel like you're kind of wrapping your elbows around your back.
Yes. It's weird to see people doing rows where they're mechanically pretending that their back doesn't exist and it's just like 2 joints, elbow joint and shoulder joint. It turns out your scapulae can protract a ton and retract a ton. Not only does that train all of the muscles that control your scapula, your rhomboids and things like that, it actually trains your traps, mid-traps, lower traps, and spinal erectors a ton because that rounding stretches the spinal erectors into a very hypertrophic position. And then when you arch back and wrap, like Joe said, around yourself, you can really crunch everything back there and get a lot of dynamic work for those spinal erectors. Remember, spinal erectors are a huge fraction of the back, and they can make a gnarly big back and I think get you more laid. Maybe it hasn't worked for me, but then again, I'm unattractive in about 500 other ways.
So he lets everything kind of go forward, protract, open up, drive down, keeping those elbows in nice and tight. And so this is a lot of lat focus. You see his arm staying right in line with the pull of the machine. If it was starting to flare out at all, might be a little bit more for upper back.
Accurate. Yep. If you keep your elbows tucked in more, it's more lats. You let them flare up more, it's more and more of the upper back region. Absolutely valid. It's really funny to hear this kind of gnarly metal with like really good technique, very mind-muscle connection style lifting. You know, like if he was like throwing dumbbells at a mirror, I'd be like, yeah, sacrifice babies. But this is kind of a trip. It's interesting to watch.
And then hanging ab raises. I like these as well. These are, I'd say, a little bit more advanced, a little bit of a tougher motion just because you have more weight to move. So the other ones, you're moving your ribs closer to your hips. This one, you're moving your hips closer to your ribs. And again, you really just want to think about moving your pelvis, not about flexing your legs a whole lot.
Yeah, so one thing you'll see with folks that are either doing this exercise wrong or when they develop a lot of fatigue is they'll stop tilting their hips towards their ribs and they'll start lordotically contracting their spine to arch their back, and their hip flexors pull a ton. So it gets the knees up, but the knees almost move back and up towards the spine, and there's no rotational element. That does train your hip flexors, but it doesn't really train your rectus abdominis muscles, the muscles that are actually the six-pack, all that much. So when you're doing this exercise, and Joe did say it was a little bit more of an advanced exercise, it's really good to have someone watch your technique, or maybe you can record yourself on a video camera and then post it to, well, you know, that website we're not allowed to talk about. And make sure that your hips are rotating out and forward and kind of like, oh, I got a good one here. Let's say you just had this just giant, super hard, ultra erect. All right, folks, if this video is going well for you so far, we have a members area where a much more expansive version of this video exists, and it's full of seedy nonsense we couldn't put on YouTube or we get canceled. If you want to give a click and become a member, you can pay us money and watch seedy things. Weirdo.
Again, if you imagined your pelvis was a bowl of water, basically you're just tipping it back.
Yeah. Joe had a much better analogy than I did. Bowl of water beats titty yourself any day of the week.
And you're keeping it.
Wait, but if you use the bowl to dip your, no, I take that back.
Chest press here, going to the machine press. Almost nothing changes.
Ooh, that looks like a good machine press.
This machine converges. So two things here is with converging, you can actually get your bicep a little bit further across, so get that pec a little bit more shortened and contracted. So that same cue helps even more here with driving your bicep into the side of the chest to make sure you get everything out of the machine and don't miss that last contraction pushing it forward.
It's really good for full range of motion and overall functional ability to get that final peak contraction. And for Bautista, that is really a good idea because at the end of the day, he's in a sense still very much an athlete, even though he's a Hollywood guy. He does do a lot of stunt work. He does a lot of physical stuff. And so you have to be able to make sure he's strong and resilient through a full range of motion. Thus, a machine like this that starts at the deep stretch at the bottom and comes all the way in is a wise choice. From a purely hypertrophic perspective, that bottom lockout portion isn't ideal. Now, the thing is that we've come to realize how important that deep stretch is just a very short time ago, measured within basically the last year. So I'm not sure, Scott, do you know how old these videos are here?
These are
A little bit older, and so like this is some shit I would have said a year ago, so no love lost.
And then big thing here is alignment. So if you look at his forearm relative to the pec line, stays right in line with kind of his outer lower pec. And right when he's at the bottom, the handles are about lower pec height as well too.
So it's interesting that he uses the forearm as a gauge. I don't typically do that, though I'm not saying he's wrong. What I think is a good idea also for you guys to try at home is to just figure out where you're the most comfortable and feel the most strong. So, seat height and where you're putting your body position related to a press machine is like, if you press to here, it's like a crap load of triceps because you're a huge elbow bend and your shoulders might feel weird. If you press super low, again, your shoulders are rounding, it might feel weird. If you press a little bit more where the bar gets close to your glenohumeral joint as far as vertical position, that's going to feel best for everyone, but not exactly there. Some people like a little lower, some people like a little higher. I think the best way to do this is just to experiment. If you have a really good feel in your joints and you feel really strong coming out, I think that's probably the best way to determine pressing angle. Now, it also is a factor of which muscles do you want to train, because if you want to train just the chest, then you don't want a ton of unnecessary forearm sort of elbow drop, because then you get a lot of tricep involvement. Could be a limiting factor for you. But if you're using this as a close grip pushing exercise for both chest and triceps, it's totally fine to be essentially kind of at a JM press style where you do get a lot of elbow bend and a lot of work at the shoulder.
And so biggest thing for pull downs here, guys, is what moves first. So he lets his shoulders stretch up and then this pulls down first. So it's not a bicep curl from the top. It's all of this stuff. It's lats, even lower traps a little bit, pulling that upper arm, pulling that shoulder blade down, and making sure that, again, the contraction's coming from there and not from your arm.
There's definitely, as an advanced lifter, you want to make sure that you're feeling something down there. I think that for beginners and intermediates, these kind of cues can be yes, fall on deaf ears essentially, but because they don't really know what they're feeling. But for advanced lifters, I would like to make sure that you feel like at least some of the movement pull is coming from your back. And if it's feeling like it's coming too much from your arms, that's often going to result in like, yeah, you feel stuff in your back, and yes, it still grows your back, but maybe not as much as it could.
So next we got him doing a lateral raise variation. So one of my favorite ones, and especially obviously for what we're looking for, Dave. For everything, it's the superhero look. So really, really good V-taper, broad shoulders. And I don't think there's a better exercise for add meat to the sides of your delt side of your shoulders.
So I will say, with all of my disagreements on the very particularities of the technique and execution being performed and advocated, these are still compound, barbell and machine, full range of motion, relatively speaking, at least movements, executed with fundamentally very excellent technique. But this is like A-tier stuff. I don't want to call Bautista lucky for having Joe Bennett around in his corner, but yeah, however that happened, however the universe serendipitously set that up, that's really awesome for him, because he could have some of the other fucking clown shit trainers that we have exposed on this channel, but illustrated their lack of understanding of how to train people. And at the end of the day, like, they're using awesome exercises with very good technique to hit exactly the muscles that you're supposed to hit to begin with. And hypertrophy coach, aka Joe Bennett, just said, like, we're going for the superhero look, which means wide taper with big lats and really capped shoulders. Like, that is exactly what you want your trainer to say when your job is in Hollywood to play a superhero. Some of the other videos we've done, they're doing landmine, this and that, and ab crunches. Who the are you training? Nobody gives a shit about function. You're not function. Your function is to stand there and look pretty, goddammit. Now, in Bautista's case, he also does some of his own stunts. And so this kind of technique and this kind of lifting he's doing not only covers his functional ability, but also his aesthetic ability. And a lot of the other crap we've seen on this channel covers sort of neither. If you're curious as to what specifically I'm referencing as far as the most egregious example, Google or YouTube search our Mark Wahlberg video critiques. Holy shit. Enjoy that.
So the benefit here compared to a normal dumbbell raise, one, just lying down, it keeps you honest, so it keeps your form very strict. You can't rock, you can't use your body or anything, your hips, your back, or anything to move the weight.
I bet Mark Wahlberg, good God.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, you got it.
I bet Mark Wahlberg can that up. Watch me. Ooh, he's got the cuffs over his wrists, which means that grip is no longer a limiting factor, which is an excellent, excellent tool. That's something, Scott's video guy, we got to get that for our gym, is some cuffs. We have cuffs at the gym currently, but they're not used for lifting. They're used for restraint. And there are chains involved, but they're not lifting chains. You guys get the picture. I'll shut up now.
And the other benefit here is at the bottom, because we're using a cable, and that cable doesn't line right up with the shoulder joint, it's heavy at the bottom and gets a little lighter as you come to the top, which is the way your shoulder can kind of produce strength, is you're stronger down here and a little weaker at the top. Whereas a dumbbell is the opposite. When you have a dumbbell at the bottom, it's cake. There's basically no torque at the shoulder joint, no load, and it basically just gets really, really heavy to where you're weakest.
Wise words. So now we have an exercise with a force curve that's harder at the stretch, easier at the top peak contraction. And that's why it's going to confer a lot of benefit for functional work, like mobility and things like that, strength in real world situations, and also a considerable amount of hypertrophy because it hits that bottom stretch position. The only concern here is cutting your dick off with the cables. Just kidding. My dick's not big enough for that to matter. Is yours? Comment below. Just kidding. Don't get banned. Well, comment away.
So just a really, really all-around good exercise.
This is a great exercise. Absolutely.
You can adjust the cable height to basically make sure it lines up well with your body. And same as every other exercise, as we kind of work through our warm-up sets, always leaving some in the tank. So again, we're pretty late in the workout, so it's still gonna be hard, still obviously gonna feel it a lot, but you're leaving some as there. We work up to our top sets, our heaviest sets.
Oh, so this is warm-up stuff. I guess they really illustrated the technique and let him talk through the warm-up sets, which makes a ton of sense. And then they throw the heavy metal music on when he's actually doing the work sets, which makes a ton of sense. So this is all really right on. And Scott, look at Dave's head dimples that he has, his skin wrinkles in his head. People tell me that that is ugly and that it looks like my brain is coming out of my head and that I should off myself. But Dave Bautista has millions and he's a famous Hollywood actor.
Yeah, you could be a movie star.
How does that work?
Well, you already are a star in certain films. But...
Oh yes, feature films, adult films.
You're stronger at the top of a hack than you are at the bottom. So the idea is to have a difference from the bottom to the top. We just want it heavier at the top than it is at the bottom, and reverse bands are one of the ways to go about that. And so you'll see that at the bottom we're getting some assistance, maybe taking off 50 pounds or so. At the midpoint, obviously it's half of that. And by the time you get halfway through for this band, it's really not helping at all from the halfway point pretty much to the top. And so again, doing it anecdotally, when you get to your working sets, it feels better, healthier, and easier from a good standpoint on your joints.
Yeah, I have a wildly opposite take to this. I think that the hack squat is a very well leveraged exercise to begin with. I think that the fact that it leverages you into a much more challenging position for your quads and your glutes at the bottom is a good thing, because stretch under load is a really important mediator of hypertrophy. I also think that if you're not accustomed to hack squatting, your knees will feel not so great down there. But if you progress through loads and volumes intelligently and slowly, you end up getting really, really resilient and very strong in that bottom position with those super high forces. And then your knees and hips get accustomed to it, and you just get really hard to injure. I used to be very much in the camp of we have to baby the knees because if they get hurt, everything's f***ed. I'm more and more in the camp lately that you have to progressively expose joints to high degrees of force, sometimes in their very weak positions, and that's how you make them strong. All right, folks. So much more low-key critique this time. Not a lot of bombastic Riz energy for me, as you may have come to expect in the past. Though, if you were watching the uncensored members version, we did talk about dicks for quite some time. Yeah, that's right. See, now you want to subscribe to the members version. Massive respect for Joe Bennett. Huge respect for Bautista. And I think they're doing almost everything spot on as far as I can tell. And I would like to see more of an emphasis on the deep contraction at the stretch and more of an emphasis on range of motion. Obviously not the leg stuff because Bautista's hurt, but definitely on upper body stuff. A little getting away from bands and chains and really exposing the muscles to a high degree of tension at the stretch. Other than that, the execution seems really good. The attention to technique seems really good. And yeah, to be quite honest, as I said before, Bautista's very lucky to have Joe in his corner. And Hollywood folks, if you're watching this, Joe Bennett's available as a trainer, I would absolutely endorse him as somebody you should definitely hire. So big ups, massive respect in it. Whatever you say in the United Kingdom, I don't know, I went there. But yeah, this is definitely, I would say this is B+, A- work if I had to be a professor of sports science, which I am, I guess, and grade this workout. So this is really, really good stuff. And by Hollywood standards, phenomenal. So always tons of respect and shit. See you guys next time. All right. That was awesome. I think I had a good time. Anyway, right over here, you're going to click on things and it's going to make you watch more of our videos. And you see the money, it goes straight to Scott the Video Guy. And he honestly has a sex addiction and that's what he's going to spend it on.